to develop it in some way, then that's really for the council to promote, and that thought hasn't emerged over a number of years that we've been dealing with this.
Pardon? The thought what?
The budgeting the clear plan, or the budgeting to intervene in some way to I mean, the obvious areas, for example, where you can improve, the best way to improve the Manga is probably in the relationship with Housing New Zealand and the land and the private housing that's built on the Manga. I think that, like, if you were prioritising, it was probably diverting, but if you were prioritising how you could best improve the Manga, you'd probably deal with the residential incursions first. And that's always an option for the council to step in, work with Housing New Zealand, use the Public Works Act if it wants to do that.
So you don't have any role in that? I'm just confused about what our role is and what you're saying it's our job.
So, Councillor, what I'm hearing is, and remember, we're concentrating on the decisions that the panel have made. If we wish to protect the Maunga further, we will need to put money in the budget to purchase land to change the land holdings around the Maunga. That's what I've heard. That wasn't what was considered by the panel. The land exchange was between us and Fletcher's, and the land that may, you know, if we want to purchase land from Housing New Zealand, then we will have to consider that as part of a separate process. Rob, did you want to add to that?
I mean, I guess in terms of there's no direct impacts on the Maunga from this proposal. The proposal includes some enhanced access to the Maunga, to the south and to the east, and there are some landscape changes to the land around the Maunga that have some impact on the way the Maunga is viewed and the setting of the Maunga. But the development of the land adjacent to the Maunga has no direct impact on the Maunga itself.
Okay. We'll take any other questions. Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Chair. On the PowerPoint, the valuation summary, so this is the one up-to-date valuation summary that we have on the PowerPoint?
It's correct, that's up to date.
Last week.
Yeah,
okay.
Last week.
Thank you. What else is there?
Councillor?
Yeah, at the moment, Chair, sorry.
All right. Councillor Walker.
Sure. I've got a number of questions around the valuations, and they go to information that we received earlier today. And if I just go through them, there's the issue around the value of land as it is now because of the effective plan change that's been approved. Is that a relevant consideration to the exchange and issues of value?
Yeah, Madam Chair, it's hard to, as I say, it was a hard exercise to go about valuing land where it's either reserve or has no operative zoning, but has the potential to have operative zoning. So the analysis you see assumes that the plan change is confirmed and assumes that it has got the operative residential zoning that is being sought in that plan change.
Okay. Another issue that's been raised around this 47.5 million in development costs is that work applies to the overall development, not just to the areas of land that are in consideration that go to this valuation. Is that a fair enough comment?
Yeah. Well, the land that we're exchanging is actually landlocked, and it doesn't have any access rights to actually get onto the land. So to release the development value from it, you need to build the roads. And you've seen the quality of the land. There's an enormous amount of civil engineering works to do in terms of excavation. You've got to put all your infrastructure in. So the current value is basically nil if none of that work was going to be done, because you couldn't access it and release the value.
Sure. I mean, I understand that. The point is that work going to enhance the value not just of this land, but also land that Fletcher owns.
Yes, it will enhance it. It's required to create the value for the building sites, and the roads obviously will provide access to those residential areas, but they'll also provide walking connections, parking, cycling connections, and access to the reserve and to the sports fields. So it's a win-win there.
But you're sheeting all the cost into this transaction, from what I can see. Is that the case or not?
No, what we've done, we've taken the costs to create the building platforms, which is primarily excavation, forming the road alignments and putting the roads in, building the roads, putting in stormwater, wastewater, water, telecom, those aspects of the works, just in relation to the parcels of land that are going to be in the exchange. So the total comes to around about 14.6 or 7 million. And we are taking a very high-level view of this through Riley's consulting engineers, because of the sensitivity of trying to forecast works.
Yeah, I understand what it's being spent on. My concern is that surely some of this, and maybe a significant chunk of this, nearly 15 million, benefits Fletcher's.
Yes, it does. It goes into the land value that that creates the ability to build apartment buildings on those pieces of land.
So can't we separate that benefit to Fletcher's out, because surely it should come off the valuation figures that we've got here?
The cost of those works to create the value, so we're saying that once they've done those works, they can build apartment buildings on that land. They're fully serviced building plots, and if they were to sell those parcels in the market without building on them, they'll be worth 17.33 million. It's going to cost them 14.75 million to create that. So the current market value, assuming residential zoning, is 2.57 million. Now those figures are all, we could talk for days about how those figures could be massaged one way or another, but it gives you a feel for the value to them. And obviously the value to us is that we receive 2.6 hectares of land completed, ready to build the sports fields on, and everything else. So if we had to go out and buy that land, we'd be spending close to 20 million if it was land that was zoned for residential, so we're comparing apples with apples.
I understand that, but my question is, what proportion of this 14.75 million is a value that Fletcher's effectively extract for other land that they own?
Okay, well, all of it...
How much is that?
All of it relates to these building parcels. The alternative plan that Fletcher's have is 373, which has road access, so they could go ahead and build the similar number of apartments in that under the other plan change. They wouldn't require roading through the reserve. So all of the works here and the costs are relating to the land that we're giving in exchange.
Okay, the other question I've got also goes to value, and it goes to the use of the land for playing fields. I mean, my understanding, and it's in the report that we've got, is that there's significant flooding that's going to occur after heavy rain, and we know that we're going to get more heavy rain events into the future, and it takes a long time for the water to basically drain away. Maybe it has to be pumped out, I don't know, maybe up to 1.5 months. So how does that get factored into the valuation of this land that may not be much use as reserve for many months of the year, and into the future maybe not much use at all?
Inundated.
Well, it's a little bit different to inundation, Councillor Quacks.
No,
in this case, it's straight out flooding.
Councillor, you've got the floor. Councillor Walker will take a comment.
But I always like the comments from Councillor Quacks on an occasional basis.
Fair enough.
If I comment first, just the way the valuation has approached it is that we're assessing the value of the land before we decide what we're going to do with it. So it's under the assumption we can build high-density residential units. But from a sports fields perspective and drainage, then Rob could address that.
So, through you, Chair, just a comment on the usability of the sports field. It is noted that in heavy rainfall events, that the area that is identified for sports field is available for stormwater capacity storage if it's needed. That won't happen often, and it won't take many months to drain. The bulk of the storage, stormwater system is within stormwater swales throughout the development and in the lower lying parts around the outside of those sports fields. So our assessment is those sports fields will be perfectly functional and usable as sports fields for a good portion.
So what is that assessment based on, Rob?
That's the stormwater analysis provision provided by as part of the plan change.
And that's looking into the future with increased frequency of stormfall events, greater intensity, that is more water that gets dumped in the catchment?
So that's looking at that sort of standard models for what the likely rainfall intensity and durations are going to be going in the future. So the stormwater system is built around to accommodate those predictions.
And the other question that goes to value that was raised is around the value of the view shafts once the bunds and the like are removed as it stands now. So has that been taken into account?
In the valuation, evaluating view shafts, etc., is probably more of an RMA decision. But obviously, from the land exchange benefits, one of those benefits is obviously creating sports fields which are going to be actively used by many hundreds of people, and their views of the manga will be clearly unobstructed. And of course, the big win would be at the public plaza as a sort of a terrace style public access area of over 1,000 square metres, where people will be able to sit in cafes, restaurants, or look up at the manga. Plus, all those people who live in apartments facing the manga, which could be maybe 400 or 500 apartments facing north and west.
And there's also the issue that goes to valuation around the area being used as a fill site, because we know the council's got the central interceptor and the CRL. And I would have thought there would have been a substantial amount of value that council would get from that. Has that been factored in, that value?
It's not factored in, because the value to council is that we are receiving land fit for purpose, and that's how we valued that land.
But if the land was filled and it was better fit for purpose because it was less subject to flooding, for example, isn't that something that we'd factor in? Particularly when we know it could be filled?
But Chair, I think this is less a valuation issue. I think if I'm right, the question is would there be benefit for the council if this site was available to deposit excavations from the CRL in the future? And I think of course, a lot depends on which contractor wins the job and where that contractor may have commercial interest in taking excavation. So that sometimes is driven by the contractor, and you'd expect, and the competitive process around procurement would mean that they would tend to look for the cheapest location in any case. So it may be neutral in terms of cost benefit to the council.
Well,
okay.
with respect, Madam Chair, there aren't too many locations within the isthmus where you can take fill.
I hear
Maybe this is the only one.
Raised. I hear the question that's been raised.
So it's an important question.
Yep.
I'm asking
have we monetised
around
the
what
future of
correct
filling this? Have we monetised that as a monetary benefit for filling
that is
this?
Correct.
And the answer is no.
We haven't.
Or not necessarily taken
I think
into consideration.
the answer Nigel gave was that we've assumed it's filled, suitably filled. How it's filled and the cost of filling it is not our concern.
Okay. Good. No, I think we're clear. Reasonable
Why is it
Councillor.
not our concern? Trying to
So
establish
I
that.
think we're getting a bit circular here.
Well, I'm not getting circular at all. I'm talking about a hole in the ground that could be filled
So we're saying that we
with some
have,
product that we need to
we've
fill
valued
somewhere.
it at fit for purpose. That's the point that's been made. Okay. I'll tell you what, we'll go to councillor Casey, and if you've got a remaining question, I'll let you.
Clive, why, you've been criticised by both the panel and the Puketapa local board for not employing a landscape architect or having a landscape assessment done. Why didn't you?
There has been no landscape impact assessment done as part of this assessment. Our open space assessment included consideration of the landscape impacts as part of the wider open space assessment. Arguably, we could have done a specialist landscape impact assessment. Our view from staff is that wasn't warranted given the nature of the proposal.
Can I just be clear about why you didn't do it, Clive? That didn't answer the question.
I think the answer was given, councillor, that in this case it was not seen as warranted. That was the answer that I heard and was given. Do you wish to add, Nigel?
Only that I think that there was some submissions at the hearing which addressed landscape and design of the park, which the panel was aware of, and I think at the RMA hearing as well there was landscape considerations, and of course the Richard Reed plan formed part of the submission to the panel, so they were aware of all of Richard Reed's attitudes and views on the landscape.
And so was ACPL.
Okay. Right, Councillor Filipaina and then Councillor Walker, and we may then need to get into the debate once we've clarified everything. Councillor Filipaina.